So good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, and I love Saturdays because it is the time where it is the end of the week. If you haven't had to work, unfortunately, I had to today, but you get a chance to breathe and just have some time to yourself. So I wanted to come on and do this podcast because, of course, I am driving. However, I get a lot of my inspiration, like I said, when I am driving, when I am en route to somewhere, and it's probably more than likely the movement or the fast acceleration where my mind is just probably thinking of a lot of different things of inspiration and how I can share it and help someone else. So I love to do it when I'm in the car. And so with all that being said, welcome to the dialogue. Reason being that this is titled The Dialogue is hopefully as I'm speaking with you, even though we are not physically in front of one another and in the same place, hopefully you are getting something from the conversation and you are sharing it with another person, which means that you are dialoguing and conversing with someone else about what you were either taught or what you learned or something that sparked your attention as you listen to this podcast. So I want to welcome you. My name is Patricia. And so today, this is going to be a very deep and sensitive message today. But I believe in legacy, and they say give people their flowers while they're here on earth. And so this is going to be a very personal message today, and in hopes of inspiring someone that if you are in need of help to do so. And so I'm going to go ahead and start. So currently I am working at a chemical dependency center, which means that I see people every single day that are addicted to crack, addicted to heroin, amphetamines, methamphetamines, barbiturates, tranquilizers, opiates, marijuana. The list goes on and on. And I've been doing this for about 2 years on October 5th. And so it's called a chemical dependency counselor. So I counsel people that are addicted to substances. And I apologize in advance if I get emotional or if you hear me crying, because that's not the purpose of the podcast. However, just with the recent news that I got, it just may be a possibility, which lets you know and understand that this subject is very dear to my heart. And so as I'm working at this job, and of course I'm not going to disclose anybody's personal information because that will be a HIPAA violation, but I am going to do a generalized podcast about what I observe or what I have observed over the years. And so when I first started out, I started a job in Madison, Ohio as a peer supporter. Same thing going on, but I was a peer supporter, and I also had my chemical dependency license. Okay, and so I've done that, and then I've been a case worker for people with substance use issues, and I'm counseling. And in all three of these fields, I get the wonderful opportunity to talk to people that battle through addiction daily. And my patients know that I loathe the word addict, that they are classified as addicts, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I'm going to dedicate this podcast to somebody. I hate the word addict because they are always deemed as the worst people. People think they steal, that they prostitute, they sleep around. People think that they do some of the lowest things to supply their habits. And where that may very well be true, I've also worked with a population that doesn't struggle financially and doesn't have to do anything to acquire the funds that they need to fuel their habit. However, there are some people that do things to fuel their habit. Okay, so you got two different types of situations or scenarios. Okay, recently I have really been shocked as I've been watching the news. There was recently an actress that passed away. She was involved in a car accident. Well, actually, I believe she hit a tree, and she had cocaine in her system. Also, the gentleman, and I do not recall his name, from The Wire, that was found with drugs in his system. He was in his system. He was in a house by himself. However, how many celebrities have gone to rehab for drug addictions? You have Bobby and Whitney Brown. I mean, the list just goes on. You have Prince that was addicted to substances as well. You have Michael Jackson that was addicted to embalming fluid, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, you have all different types of people from all different walks of life, all different age brackets. I just was at the doctor's office, at the eye doctor's office, and a nurse walked in and said how she just tried to save this little girl's life that was 16 years old, and they were driving around with this little girl in a car, and she started seizing, and they went to a party that she was at, and when she tried to help her, she was dead. She overdosed. And so I currently reside in Canton, Ohio, and I work in Kent, Ohio, and I'm from Akron, Ohio. And between these three regions, or these three areas, the overdosing at this point is ridiculous. There are so many people that are dying from usage of drugs. I just had a scenario where I heard that it was a parent in their car. Their son was out playing at a park, and the son went back to look for his dad, and he was dead in the car because he overdosed, because he decided to take some of the drugs while his kid was at the park playing. The most ironic part is that no one even knew that he was doing drugs. The person that was dating him suspected, when they heard that he died, that was what it was because of whatever reasons. But he died, and his son found him. And so today, I've been working at this specific job since April 12th of this year. And so we serve a population of patients, and it's about maybe 95 that are addicted to drugs. And so I get the wonderful opportunity of going in and counseling these bright, beautiful people that fight every day to not use an IV, to not pick up a crack pipe, to not snort, to not drink substances, to not eat substances, to not inject it in between their feet, in their veins, in their muscles. And I sit on the other side of the desk and try and be as non-judgmental as possible to give them a warm heart and a warm experience for an hour out of the day, if they make it, that will try to last them for as long as possible. And so recently, I just heard of a friend, or let's just say someone that supported me in my journey of homelessness, that overdosed and died. And let me tell you why this one was hard, because, and I'm going to share my personal business. There was a time where I was homeless, and I've shared this before on Facebook, and I was sleeping in a car. Well, I shared that I was homeless, not this specific scenario, but I was homeless for 9 years. I moved around between different houses for 9 years. And I was sleeping in a car. I had been sleeping in a car for 3 days. It was 16 degrees outside. I had a blanket I was able to go into my friend's house to wash daily, but ultimately I had nowhere to go. I reached out to a couple people. No one's heart was moved to allow me to come stay with them. But I'm going to tell you how divine God's timing and his providence is. Not just for me, but for this other person. And I'm going to keep her name discreet for purposes of just maintaining her integrity. However, that morning, I had been using my friend's USB in her car, and I was listening to a message, and the message was talking about how sometimes you have to go to where God is telling you and wait for your miracle. And the man was saying how God told him to go to this McDonald's for breakfast, and he wasn't hungry, but he knew the Lord was telling him to go. When he got there, it was a lady there. He ended up praying for her. She got a breakthrough or some deliverance. And long story short, how she wouldn't have got it if he wasn't obedient to go, but if she wasn't obedient also to be there at that time. So God had been dealing with me about walking to this specific location, but my feet were froze. It was freezing cold outside. It was 16 degrees, and I slept in the car that evening. So I started to complain. I said, well, Lord, I am tired. Like, my feet are cold. I can't walk up there. But I kept feeling that nudge that I needed to do it. And so my friend's car, because I was using her USB, the battery died. So she told me, like, hey, I need you to get out the car and walk around the corner because my family is going to come and they're going to jump the battery. But, I don't want them to see you in the car with your blanket and stuff like that and ask questions. So, boom, that was the indication right there that I didn't have a choice but to go to where God told me to go. He made it to where that door, at that open door where I was at was closed. So I didn't have a choice but to go where he was telling me to go. And so I told her, I said, okay, I'll just walk around the corner to the transit. She was like, no, I just need you to walk just one block over so he can't see you. But I knew what God was telling me to do. So I got out of the car and I walked to the transit, which was the bus station. And it was freezing. And when I got in there, I saw one of my relatives, but for some reason, I knew not to tell them what I really was going through. But I knew I was at that bus station for a miracle. I knew that something was going to happen. I knew that somehow God was going to open a door to provide for me to have somewhere to stay, because prior to that, I had nowhere to go. I had been staying with my friend, and some things happened, which put me in the car. And so as I get to the transit, this bright ray of sunshine comes in, and she's like, hey, how are you doing? And me and her had been at church together. We had saw each other periodically. It was always like a tender moment with me and her. She was just a sweetheart. And so we go and we sit down. Well, I think I was already sitting down. She came in and sat down with me, and she was like, how are you doing? And I said, I'm not doing too good right now. I'm homeless. She said, you're homeless? I said, yeah, I'm sleeping in the car. And I said, whatever. And she was like, not anymore. And she let me move in her house with her that day. She never charged me rent. At the time, I wasn't working. She never charged me rent. She never made me watch her children. She never made me cook for her, clean for her, anything. I did do her hair a couple times, but she didn't extort me or use me in my low place, in my vulnerable place. Long story short, recently I have just heard that this person has passed away. Ironically enough, when I stayed there with her, I could tell that there were some things that were going on with her that may have pointed to her having an addiction, but I never said anything to her to bring that out or to make her feel bad or to condemn her or make her feel bad about her choices. She still was able to function and live throughout her life, so I didn't bring it up to her, but she always told me, like, Patricia, I'm struggling. There's something that I want to tell you. And I told her, I said, it's okay, I already know. So in that silent conversation, what was understood didn't need to be explained. That didn't take away from her humanity because she had an issue. I didn't look at her differently because she was struggling. She had some problems. So eventually it became time for me to leave. But me and her were able to spend that time together. Moral of the story is, and I have 2 bullet points, and it might lead into 3, we don't know. But at the end of the day, I want to respect her And I just, share my love for her and appreciation for her helping me in a very critical time where I didn't have anywhere to go and all the doors in my life were shut. She opened up her door, but she opened up her heart towards me. And I'll never forget that we would sit there watching the Muppets and just talk about life and talk about the Bible. And she was just a lovely soul. That's bullet point number 1. Number 2, I want to put the disclaimer on the fact that people that are addicted to drugs, they are not the worst people in the world. So many patients that I talk to, they are so loving and gentle and kind. They have issues, but I tell them all the time, you are not the problem. You have a problem. We just got to find a solution to help you get over it and work through it. But they are wonderful, bright, intelligent people that are coming to the facility that want help. And I will be honest with you, a lot of people that have unfortunately been introduced to drugs started because they went to a hospital or they had a major surgery and they were given opioids. And when they were given it, it was too much. The dose and the milligram was too high and they became addicted. So, of course, when you get out of the hospital where you don't have a doctor to give it to you, you still have those cravings and triggers and withdrawal symptoms and issues, and you ultimately go out to get something harsher. And so a lot of people have become addicted to drugs in that manner. Okay. I also want to tell people that listen to this podcast, if you have someone that you know with drugs, don't judge them. If you can't help them, just stay away from them. And because I have to do that myself, there are some very personal relationships in my life that I have to stay away from. It's your own choice. Nobody's judging you or treating you bad. Some people don't understand. You have to do what's best for you and what's healthy for you. But I will tell you, if I was still around those people, I would not be able to openly address and talk about issues of addiction. The last disclaimer that I'm going to put on before I end this podcast, if you are someone battling with addiction, please go get help. There are so many drugs that they're lacing together. Fentanyl with cocaine, benzos with cocaine and fentanyl in it. And people are buying the regular type of drug. They don't even know that this stuff is in their substances until the urine screens come back. And so people think that they just have a light addiction. Okay, we understand. But what they're lacing and putting with the stuff with, it is causing massive deaths, overdoses. I mean, now they do have it to where you can do the Narcan. If that's administered, then you possibly can save someone else's life. But I believe that it's very hard. I've never heard of anybody being able to Narcan themselves in time to not overdose and die. Overdosing is quick. You shoot this stuff up one time. In 30 seconds, you can be dead. You take one sniff of something that used to be white and now it's brownish or pinkish or bluish, that's laced with something, and you're gone. I tell my patients all the time, I'm so relieved when I come back to work and nobody has overdosed. We don't have to discharge a patient because they died. And so I just want to get on and share my heart with you today, because drugs has touched everybody's household. Majority of all people have someone that is either on drugs or they know someone that is on drugs. If you are someone struggling, please go get help. I'm going to try to come on to give more insight and more information about the battle with addiction, and hopes that you share it and that you hear it. And you share it with someone else. If you are listening to this and you are the person struggling with drugs, you are a bright, beautiful person. You are not overlooked. God loves you. You have a purpose. There is still time for you to save your life. And I just want to admonish you that God has not forsaken you. You are still his child. No matter if anybody else has written you off or rejected you because of your issue, he still loves you. He can help you get clean. He can help you remain sober. Yes, you will have to do the work. Yes, you will have to implement practical things in order to stay sober. You may have to get rid of people. You may have to come out of places. You might have to get rid of things, but it is possible. It is possible for you to live a life of sobriety. It is possible for you to live a life that you enjoy, for you to wake up in the morning and be free of the first thing that's on your mind is to go and get your need or your itch fixed. It's possible. It is possible. Yes, you need the right resources. Yes, you need some support, but you can do it. So I'm going to come back on here and I'm going to have more information about this. And I pray that someone finds relief to know that you're seen, that we see you, we understand, you are being prayed for, you are loved, you are God's child, and there is help for you. If you know someone struggling with drugs, please go ahead and share this podcast with them in hopes to inspire and uplift so that they go, enter into the road of recovery. I will be back with more content, and thank you so much for tuning into the dialogue. Please, you can subscribe, I believe, to the email list at the bottom, or you can get notifications as to when the next podcast will be coming up. But overall, thank you so much for listening. My name is Patricia, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful Saturday. I'll be back with more information soon. Bye.